Hi, it has been quite a while since my last video, so I will be providing a life update, but this will mostly focus on my discernment journey. So let's get into it. I'm going to start off by just focusing how my upbringing just shaped my inclinations as an adult. So I was born and raised Catholic, but I was also worldly minded. I went to public school. I was very into sports, and the sports I played, they weren't like associated with like Catholic intramurals or whatever. It was just like YMCA. And in elementary school, I really wanted kids, but I was also intimidated in elementary school by how much you would have to give, and I wasn't sure if I could live up to my parents because my parents are pretty awesome. And I remember one time I was in a grocery store with my parents, well, with my dad, and he said something along the lines of, wait till you have kids and you're going to have to see how much you're going to have to do. And then I reply, I don't think I want kids. And I'm lying, I do, but I do truly want to not want kids because I did see around that time how life could be easier without him. So I wanted to be open to that way of life. So that basically, though, just started this toxic seed in me because it's good to have this inclination to nurture. Also in elementary school, I found out, my mom told me about what a nun did, and I found it pretty interesting. I wouldn't go so far as to say I was interested because I didn't have the strongest prayer life, but I did find the radical aspect of it appealing. So, fast forward to high school or late high school, early college. By this time in my life, that toxic seed of not wanting kids has come to fruition. And at this time in my life, I am super, super hungry for romantic affection. Also, at this time in my life, I am agnostic. So, I make a video about why I am agnostic. Oh, I made a video and I will post a link to that in the description. So, I'm not going to go too into that, but it does affect it does affect things. And you'll see. So I become a serial dater at that time, and I get into this situation where I am experiencing unrequited love, and it makes me so depressed that I literally end up wanting to die. And then God, He proves Himself to me. And in this experience where He proves Himself to me, I get into that in the video I mentioned earlier that will be in in the description. But I will say, so I'm not going to get too into that, but I will say that I felt a sense of romance when I was around him. And ever since then, I have been a Christian. I was a pretty bad Christian the first year of my life, but I get myself together by the second year. And at this time, I'm still dealing with a lot of wounds, and I'm still dealing with this hunger for romantic affection, and I'm still dealing with this seed of not wanting kids, despite knowing how romantic affection should be seen as a means for family and marriage, but I kind of looked at it as just an end in and of itself. And the wounds I'm dealing with just still stem from how I was sexually assaulted twice in high school, and how my first boyfriend in high school, he just like a week into our relationship, he just decided to pursue my best friend. Then I've dealt with like three cases of unrequited love. My first boyfriend in college, he broke up with me because he just wanted to do what he wanted. And even though there were some men who pursued me in a sincere way, I would forget about that and I would only remember the rejection, and I would internalize the rejection, and I really made like I really felt inferior, and for some weird reason I thought that other people were looking at me as inferior, and that really affected me because and like I was also dealing with vanity too, and I was just somebody who wanted to be seen as someone who was loved. And when people talk about healing in the Christian world, I feel like they only talk about forgiveness, and I wasn't bitter at any of those men. I really wasn't. I just was dealing with a lot of feelings of inferiority. So that's going on in my life, or that's going on in my soul. And I'm also studying HR and human resources, and it's the whole aspect of pursuing a career, and it just seems empty to me. And so after I graduate college, I become a missionary, and I find it very rejuvenating. I am doing 2 hours of prayer every day, so that consists of morning and evening prayer and mass every day, and an hour of Eucharistic Adoration. And if you are not Catholic, you might not know what morning and evening prayer is, or maybe not even Eucharistic Adoration. So I'm just going to post a link in the description about what those things mean, just in case. And we also did youth ministry as our work. So I lived in a retreat house with five other girls. So we lived in community, and I loved it. And that will be relevant later. All of these things will be relevant later. But I love that. And the youth ministry, that was okay. Like I said, I was still dealing with the seed of not loving the whole idea of having kids. And so I found my interactions with kids very woefully dry. I was told I interacted well with them, but I didn't find it very fulfilling. I don't think that's the most important thing, but I'm just kind of saying what was going on in my soul. So that lasted for 9 months. And then when it was over, I'm still unsure what to do with my life. I still don't really want a career. I don't really want a family. And I tried getting a job in youth ministry, and that doesn't work. So and I'm not even thinking about being a religious sister. So I pray about it, and I start this business/ministry. And the whole mission was to discern, or to share how God has worked in your life. So the idea was to build a team of bloggers on a website, and they share about that, and then to have meetings where people share about how God worked in their life, like in a Catholic Toastmaster style. So I think what did become of it was kind of cool, but not much became of it. And as I'm working on this business/ministry, I realized that I should be more open to religious life. So I attend this discernment, this religious discernment event put on by the Dominican Sisters of Mary, Mother of the Eucharist, and I get convicted because I see how their life is kind of similar to the life I lived as a missionary, but it was just like a step up. Like they prayed for several hours a day, and I prayed for 2 hours a day, so I thought I could step that up. They take this vow of chastity. Well, I instinctually understood the whole concept of taking the dating fast. Other people didn't understand it that well and really struggled with it. And I actually went to a wedding earlier this year of these two teammates who struggled with that. Anyway, sorry, tangent. Love y'all. And so I understood that, and what really captivated me was just the joy that they had. And it reminded me of the joy that I had as a missionary. And I thought, well, if I had this joy as a missionary and their life is similar to that, maybe I can have that joy. And it just seemed like so much like closer to the way I'd like to live my life than, like a career or a family. So I'm convicted, but at this time I'm still dealing with this hunger for a romantic affection, and this like embarrassment of never feeling like I was loved. And I'm also seeing somebody at this time, so I pursue a relationship with him instead. So we get together, and I put religious life to the side. And I didn't just get with him because I was broken. There was genuine feelings there, but it did influence my decision making. And so I really try to want kids and try to heal this seed, or try to get rid of the seed of not wanting kids, but it doesn't happen. And to make matters even worse, I end up accidentally going on another religious life retreat accidentally. It was called a life awareness retreat. and so I thought they would just guide us on how to make decisions about your life, but and it ended up just being about religious life, and that was it. And I felt a lot of joy and peace there, and I just couldn't help that then when I would spend time with the man I was dating at the time, that there was just an emptiness there. So we end up not working out, not just because of that reason, but we end up not working out, and I'm still not ready at that time to pursue religious life. And I think God might be forming me in my mind a little bit and guiding me to tradition. At this time, I was interested in a religious order that wasn't very traditional. So, anyways, I'm not ready to pursue religious life after we break up, like full heartedly. So I get a job as a receptionist, and then I also just give up on my business slash ministry. Something just didn't seem right about the mission, or I just didn't have enough strength in me to persevere. And looking back, I do see how it was vulnerable to a lot of relativism. Anyway, so I did, I was a receptionist for a year. It ends tragically. It gets my attention from God, the tragic ending. And so I'm ready to pursue religious life. It's 2020 and I'm ready to pursue religious life. But the order I contact, they take a while to get back to me. And since it's 2020, I get pretty convicted about the corruption in the world, and I just get distracted by doing activism. I become a pro life activist, and I become a sidewalk advocate, and I also become a Catholic activist, sidewalk advocate. I don't know if I said that clearly, but I became a sidewalk advocate. So I get distracted with that, and then since the order I contacted took a while to get back to me as well, that was a contributing factor, not blaming them entirely. Someone asked me on a date, I say yes, and we don't, after like a couple months, not too long, we don't work out. I contact the religious order again. We end up talking, and they think that it's too concerning that I had a relationship, and in our conversation, the person I spoke with didn't really sense a strong call to religious life. So I think that I'm very possibly not called. So I just kind of focus on my activism, and then I become open to dating. So I was thinking that it may be important to mention that when I said I was focused on activism, I mean that after doing it devoutly on a volunteer basis for a couple months, I literally got a full-time job coordinating grassroots efforts nationwide. So I moved across the country away from where all my friends and family were. And this was for about a year. So this was not just a side thing. So I date one person for 3 months, and then I date another person for a lot longer, and he ends up being just a very wonderful person. But I'm still struggling with the seed of not wanting kids, and I try to get over it. And I get to this point where I basically I almost do, but I get concerned because in my in really considering marriage with this man, I keep getting these sick feelings, and they're almost painful. And I literally ask God to take them away, but then I could get concerned that then they go away because um, they're from God, and if God's trying to tell me something, I try to be open. So I do become a little bit open eventually to what I think He might be trying to tell me, and I start thinking about religious life again. And then, like this one night, when I'm just thinking about religious life, just like a little bit, I'm just like overcome with like so much peace, and I'm crying, and I'm also sad because I have to, because I feel like I can't be in this relationship anymore. And after kind of just like going back and forth, we finally break up, and I visit a convent for 30 days. I should probably also include right now that earlier within the same week, My activism job ended in a way that traumatized me because I endured a lot of mischaracterization and cruelty. And it was actually the day after we broke up that I drove straight to a convent because I wanted to move on right away and embrace the life I perceived God was calling me to. An influencing factor was that I was also afraid I was going to fall into a pit of despair and depression living alone in my apartment because I was in deep grief, losing these things that were my entire life. But I will say I felt a lot of consolation alongside the grief about pursuing religious life over married life at the time. And I felt this immediate detachment from this world. And so we're already in 2022, early 2022 by now. And right upon my arrival, the mother I speak with, she tells me that she can tell I'm called to religious life right away. She says that she has the grace of the office. And so I find that relieving just to like have a clear sign. And she tells me that I'm called to religious life like almost every other day, and I stay there for 30 days. And she also tells me how the sisters like me, and I get accepted to continue discernment with them and to possibly become a postulant. But I don't want to do it. I just like have little to no joy, and I just really struggle, and I'm like crying all the time because I don't want to do it. It's just so hard. And during this time of distress, I do not know why I was not thinking about it at the time, but I could not have joined the convent anyways right away because I have student loans. And so I did several novenas to Saint Teresa of Lisieux to ask me a certain color rose according to the state in life I should choose, whether it's religious life, single life, or married life. And I kept getting the marriage rose. So I'm confused because I didn't have any peace with marriage, and I had a lot of peace with religious life. So I'm like, what's going on? So I do genuinely start to consider marriage again. It's crazy, but but there were just other things, coincidences in my life that I just can't get past, and um, I decided to eventually just pursue religious life, and that's where I am right now. Also, I get discouraged because the order I visited wasn't the best fit for me. It was a cloistered, and I'm like one of the most outgoing people in the world. And so for me to be in a cloistered means that you can never leave the property. Uh, to always having to be hiding myself, like I was getting kind of just sad having to do that. And so the mother, she let me visit a semi-contemplative community to see what that was like. So they spent most of their time inside, but like they didn't have to hide from everybody. And I was just way more at peace with that. And there was joy, there was peace. Whereas with the other community, there was peace, but very little joy. And that other community, the first community I discerned with, they were very wonderful women. So that's not it's not a testament at all to them. Like they were great. So yeah, now I am in correspondence with a semi-contemplative community in Texas. The order I visited was in a whole other country in Minneapolis, but I'm in the great country of Texas, and I have patriotism for my country. So I have an important update since filming this. The semi-contemplative orders that I contacted have not worked out for different reasons, so I am considering the cloistered life again. It is the highest calling a woman can have and the most sure way to holiness, but I genuinely thought it may be too hard for me and that the semi-contemplative life may be easier and more practical for me, but I can foresee myself getting comfortable and possibly complacent. And each time that has happened, such as the 6 different administrative positions I was in, God has not let that continue. So I thought I was being humble and practical, but God was saying, no, you're running the risk of apathy. So I'm starting to think that God doesn't want me settling in life or being in a position where I'm only good enough, but in a position where I can be the best person I can be. So I can't picture myself ever becoming comfortable in a cloister, but whether that's for better or for worse, only time will tell. So right now I'm also a tutor in a classical education homeschool hybrid, and I love it. And I finally feel like any seed of me not wanting kids is finally healed. It's finally gone. And I'm just like so relieved because no matter what state in life you choose, we should always take joy in nurturing kids. And I didn't used to, and now I do, and I'm just so glad. And that will only help you be a more loving person no matter what state in life you choose. And so I went back to sidewalk advocacy, so I'm doing that, and I'm also doing some media contract work, and I'm just trying to maintain a strong prayer life, and excuse me, and I am trying to be a good daughter at home. So that is my life right now. Um, and then just one thing I think is very interesting is how I'm healed of this tendency of not taking joy in children. I'm healed of that finally when I'm no longer in a relationship, and I find that timing very interesting because if I was healed sooner, it's very possible I would have been married by now. Very, 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 very possible, because that overwhelming dryness I felt towards children really concerned me. So the fact that I'm healed of it now that I'm not in a relationship, I just think it has to be God's timing, and that's another reason why I'm deciding to pursue religious life. And then one of the most important reasons too is because when God proved Himself to me, He let me feel a sense of romance when I was experiencing His presence. And at first, I thought He was just showing me how He's the source of all things that are good. But now I think He was also telling me, or just showing me, how maybe He had this call for me to be His bride all along. it just really it just really makes me want to try harder with this. And the the Bible verse of Saint Paul saying how it's better to be single, that always convicted me ever since, like, within my first year or two of being a true Christian. So that's where I am right now. And if you have any questions, feel free to make a comment, and I will put my email in the description. So feel free to send me an email if you have a personal question. God bless you, and I hope that this has had some kind of good effect on you.